After saying a suspect is dead after ramming his vehicle into the north barricade of the Capitol complex and being shot by police. Let's listen in.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Acting Chief Yogananda Pittman for the United States Capitol Police. It is with a heavy heart that I come here this afternoon to shed some light on the incident that occurred at the United States Capitol.
The supplemental guard has arrived at South Barricade.
At approximately 1:02 hours this afternoon, a suspect entered what we refer to as the north barricade of the Capitol. The suspect rammed his car into two of our officers and then hit the north barricade barrier. As such time, the suspect exited the vehicle with a knife in hand. Our officers then engaged that suspect. He did not respond to verbal commands. The suspect did start lunging toward U.S. Capitol Police officers, at which time U.S. Capitol Police officers fired upon the suspect. At this time, the suspect has been pronounced deceased. Two U.S. Capitol Police officers were transported to two different hospitals, and it is with a very, very heavy heart that I announce one of our officers has succumbed to his injuries. We are not able to release any information, names, age, date of birth, or anything of that nature at this time because we still have to notify the next of kin. I just ask that the public continue to keep U.S. Capitol Police and their families in your prayers. This has been an extremely difficult time for U.S. Capitol Police after the events of January 6th and now the events that have occurred here today. So I ask that you keep our U.S. Capitol Police family in your thoughts and prayers. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to the Metropolitan Police Chief, Mr. Robert Conti, for the Metropolitan Police Department's portion of this investigation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Robert Conti, Acting Chief of the Metropolitan Police Department. Our members responded to the U.S. Capitol today just after 1 o'clock p.m. To investigate an officer-involved shooting. At this time, the Metropolitan Police Department's Homicide Division, as well as our Internal Affairs Division, will now take over the investigation with respect to the shooting death that occurred, as well as the officer's death. There's not a lot of information that we can release to the public at this time. But we certainly will be working very closely with our partners at the Park Police, at the U.S. Capitol Police. At this time, I just want to extend my deepest condolences on behalf of the entire Metropolitan Police Department to all of the officers at the United States Capitol Police for their service and unfortunately for the loss of life that have occurred here today at the United States Capitol Police.
Is there an ongoing threat here on Capitol Hill or in the neighborhood? What can you tell residents that live here as well as folks that work in this area?
At this time, it does not appear to be an ongoing threat. Obviously, we're in the very early stages of our investigation. We need to obviously understand the motivation behind this senseless act. So the Metropolitan Police Department will certainly be doing that.
I know you said the suspect is dead, sir. Any reason to know that he was known to Capitol Police or MPD beforehand? Any indication that he was somebody that had been around the Capitol before, maybe spotted, anything like that?
It does not appear that he is known to the Capitol Police or the Metropolitan Police Department at this time.
Is this a terrorism-related?
Sir?
Is this a terrorism-related incident?
It does not appear to be terrorism-related, but obviously we'll continue to investigate to see if there's some type of nexus along those lines.
Will the National Guard's posture change at all? What's their mission look like the next couple of days?
I'll refer that to the United States Capitol Police.
Did the suspect say anything or yell anything at the time?
I would say that at this time, the investigation is still in its preliminary stages, so we don't have that information And the Capitol Police, as far as its security posture, remains in a steady state at this time. We are very thankful for our National Guard partnership. We do have National Guard on the campus, but the security posture at this time remains the same.
Chief, you said that obviously the motive, you're still looking at the motive, I understand that. Any reason to believe that there was any specific target of member of Congress? Was there a specific member of Congress that the suspect may have been trying to go after? Any indication who that may have been, if that was the case?
We do not have the suspect on file with U.S. Capitol Police, so there's no indication at this time that there's any nexus to any member of Congress.
Can you speak also to
Any other kind of motive? Were
Yes,
there
ma'am.
drugs or alcohol involved? Do you believe you found any of that in the car?
We cannot confirm that, but the investigation is
Any
ongoing.
weapons in the car?
The suspect did exit the vehicle with a knife in hand, and at that time he started to lunge toward, run aggressively toward U.S. Capitol Police office.
Any weapons?
No, that part of the investigation is still ongoing. The scene is still being processed by Metropolitan Police Department, so we will have additional information at a later time.
The suspect transported to
Acted
hospital?
alone.
Did the suspect ever come in contact? I know you mentioned the lunge, but did the suspect come in contact and wrestle with the police officer there?
The investigation is ongoing. From what we can see from video at this time, I do not see the suspect wrestling with a U.S. Capitol Police officer, but when he exited the vehicle, the knife was clearly in his hand, and he did start to run toward the officers. So at this time, this is all the questions that I am going to take. I turn it back over to Metropolitan Police Department's chief. Again, I ask you to please keep the United States Capitol Police family in your thoughts and prayers at this time. It has been an extremely difficult and challenging year for us, but we will get through this, and we do appreciate the community's support. Thank you.
Can you give us an update on the second officer?
Hey folks, we understand that you guys have a lot of questions. Obviously, this is a complex investigation. We are going to be putting out more information as we can on social media, and if we decide to do any more briefings later on, we'll of course let you guys know right away. Thank you.
Chief, can you give us an update on Chief Conti? Can we ask you one more question?
So again, we just heard from Acting Chief.
Grand fabric.
Oh, let's wait here for one more question.
USCP has changed their intelligence, the way they're sharing it. They've been doing what they can to try to beef up the security here, and still they're under attack. What is the answer?
Yeah, well, I think, just part of our responsibilities and duties as law enforcement officers, we're here to protect and serve community. Clearly, this was someone who was actively trying to just get at whoever or whatever. We just don't know right now. So we have a responsibility to investigate that, to get to the bottom of this, whether the attack was at law enforcement or whoever. We have a responsibility to get to the bottom of it, and we'll do that. Thank you.
At the scene or at the hospital?
So again, we just heard from, that was the chief of the Metropolitan Police, Chief Conti there. We also heard from the acting chief, Yogananda Pittman of the U.S. Capitol Police, revealing that a U.S. Capitol Police officer was killed today outside the Capitol building. She says a suspect rammed a car into two officers and then into the north barricade of the U.S. Capitol complex. That suspect then exited the vehicle with a knife and ran toward officers. Officers opened fire. That suspect is now dead. A second officer is in the hospital. But again, one of those officers lost their lives today. Homicide is now investigating along with the Capitol Police. And I want to go to our correspondent, Martha Raddatz, who's there at the Capitol. Martha, it's so hard not to think about the fact that we just had the Capitol insurrection, which you were there for on January 6th, and now we're hearing a Capitol Police officer lost his life today in this event.
It's so tragic, and I cannot help thinking of all the families of those Capitol Police officers who've heard this news today as they go out and try to contact the next of kin. It has been such a hard year for Capitol Police. Brian Sicknick was killed during the insurrection. Another officer died by suicide after the insurrection. I right now am surrounded by National Guard. They responded almost immediately. An immediate reaction force, it is called. They're surrounding this area. We're about 2 blocks from where that car rammed that barrier just here at the Capitol. They're a number of tourists around who are here in town seeing the cherry blossoms. But these men and women of the National Guard, and there are about 2,300 of them now at the Capitol, surrounding the Capitol once again. They had taken down a lot of the fencing, but those barriers thankfully remained, and that car didn't go any further. Diane.
Martha, thank you. And I want to go to our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas. Pierre, you know, the law enforcement was highly unprepared for the January 6th insurrection, but they have been prepared for another potential attack ever since then. We still don't know the motive behind what happened here, but what's the reaction in law enforcement to see something like this happen, even when security is so high?
Well, I've been on the phone with sources since this incident took place, and unfortunately, I was given guidance before the press conference that one of the officers had died. And I can tell you, Diane, that they're crestfallen. This Capitol Police Department has gone through a lot with the insurrection. One source described today as just a day of infamy where a normal day, a beautiful day in Washington, exploded into violence. Literally, suspect pressing his way through the barrier with a car, getting out of the vehicle with a knife, fatally injuring an officer somewhere in the process. We don't know exactly the precise way that the officer died yet, but we know that this was an extraordinarily violent episode. Law enforcement sources continue to give guidance that it appears to be an isolated incident. You heard them say at the press conference they do not believe that it's terror-related at this early stage. Every aspect of this will be investigated as they try to dissect this person's background to make sure that if it was an isolated incident, that this was some kind of unstable person. If that turns out to be the case, that's only it. But every affiliation of this person, every recent communication, law enforcement officials will attempt to get. Right now, the Capitol Police are allowing the D.C. police to take the lead in this investigation. We do believe that the FBI will give some support in terms of digging into the background of the suspect as well. But obviously, this kind of situation, the FBI and Homeland Security have been warning about two primary scenarios. One, that domestic terrorists, white supremacists, and others would seek to use the insurrection as an attempt to further their goals, but also that unstable, quote, lone wolves might be and would likely be an ongoing threat. At minimum, that appears to be what took place today. Lone individual shows up and attacked the Capitol Police, ramming through a barrier. Again, sources stunned, saddened, an awful day.
And Pierre, I know they're not clear yet if law enforcement was the target here or may have just happened to be there when this incident happened. But how worried are law enforcement officials that they will be targeted?
Well, right now, you know, specific to Washington, D.C., since the insurrection, there has been continued intelligence and concern that there could be similar violence that could occur in the city. That said, there's been a broader ongoing concern across the board that is continuous, quite frankly, about lone wolves, people who show up, who are unstable, who may be radicalized online by either domestic interests or foreign interests, or people who are just, you know, unstable for whatever reason. That threat, which we see playing out sometimes in mass shootings, it's an ongoing threat. And it is something that law enforcement now is thinking about all the time and trying to figure out ways to identify people who might be, you know, planning or thinking about violence beforehand and try to intervene.
And I want to go over to Mary Alice Parks, who's at the White House. Mary Alice, we heard Pierre there talking about how this is something that's been on law enforcement mind for quite some time, you know, worried about an attack, not necessarily like this specifically, but just breaches in security in general. And that's the case for the whole city, really, especially since January 6th. You're at the White House right now. What's it like there?
Yeah, Diane, the president is not here. He's at Camp David with his family for the Easter holiday. But you're right, even here around the White House complex, an expanded perimeter since January 6th. The public can't even walk in the parks close to the White House. They can't take those pictures you're used to seeing. They have to stay quite a few blocks back still on the other side of the park. But it was just this week, Diane, that some of the fencing started to come down. We started to get an indication that there might be some movement there, maybe some of the perimeter coming down, but at this point you still have to stay, several blocks away from the White House because this entire complex has still been just under that kind of heightened sense of security that the whole city has felt since January 6th.
Yeah, we're now hearing that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has ordered flags be flown at half-staff in honor of that Capitol police officer who lost their life today. I want to bring in Josh Margolin, our reporter who's been following this since this event first started. Josh, we're hearing a little bit more now about the suspect, a little bit more about the investigation. We know it's still in early stages, but what do we know at this point?
So, Diane, during the press conference, the authorities said that they don't believe at this point there's a nexus to terrorism. That's the official way to say that they don't believe that this is something where the individual who did this was either directed or inspired by, say, ISIS or Al-Qaeda, or was doing it, say, on behalf of a white supremacist or militia group. So not terrorism. They're also saying they don't have evidence at this point that this person was specifically targeting a member of Congress. In terms of, they know who this person is, obviously. So they're saying that this person is not on their radar screen. But that really is just a 30,000-foot view of it right now in the immediate aftermath when they get the driver's license and they see who this person is. They're going to need to figure out, and they're already, I'm sure, doing it because we know how they run these investigations. They're trying to figure out, was this person motivated by some particular animosity toward a member of Congress? Could there be some sort of political motivation? Could it be a white supremacy thing? Could it be some other political thing? Could it be, some sort of jihadist terror? That all will have to be looked at. And then they really want to look at what would set this person off to do something like this today. Is it because of the day? Is it because of the location? And then on top of all these complexities that I'm talking about, we have the situation that we always look at. Police are going to wonder, could it just be somebody who was, mentally unhinged and, suicide by cop? That's the phrasing they use, where somebody wants to do an attack and go out in a terrible fit. The problem and the really awful part of it here is obviously we have one police officer who was killed. We have another who was injured. So it's just so awful when these things happen. But like we've been seeing in these mass shootings recently, it's really hard to disconnect the various motivations. Like we saw in Atlanta, was it some sort of anti-Asian thing? Was it a misogyny thing? Like we saw in Boulder, was it there some sort of, reason why the individual in Boulder last week went ahead and committed the attack? It's very, very complex work, and law enforcement tragically has gotten good at it.
Yeah, we're seeing the investigators on the ground now already trying to answer all those questions that you mentioned, Josh. I want to go back to Martha Raddatz, who again is there at the Capitol. Martha, we see the heavy police presence there now. We heard you say that the National Guard deployed an immediate reaction force in light of all of this. How else do you expect to see security in the city change as they try to put this all together?
Well, I think one of the things is the city had started to calm down a bit. They had taken a lot of those perimeter barriers outside the Capitol down, but now we have no idea what will happen next. We have this immediate reaction force behind me, really hundreds and hundreds of guardsmen and guardswomen around the Capitol right now. They're going to have to reassess this because no matter what the motivation or no motivation at all from that suspect, these buildings remain targets. They are magnets for people who want to take lives, for terrorists, for whomever does violence in Washington, D.C. and around the country. The Capitol really does remain a magnet. And again, just so tragic that a Capitol police officer lost his or her life.
It sure is. Martha Raddatz, thank you. And again, this is still a developing story. We will continue to monitor it right now. What we know is a U.S. Capitol police officer was killed today outside the Capitol as a suspect rammed a vehicle into the north barricade there, hitting two officers in the process. The suspect then left the vehicle with a knife. Police opened fire. That suspect is now dead, and a second officer hospitalized. So we will continue to monitor this story for you. You can expect full details tonight on World News Tonight. For now, I'm Diane Macedo in New York. Stay safe, everybody.
This has been a special report from ABC News.